Hello, hello. It is June 14th, 2025, and I have yet again returned to playing a USCF event. Yet again, I am at the Marshall Chess Club playing the under 2000 morning action, and overall, it went pretty well. Not as well as last time, which is a mild spoiler, but you know what, whatever, I don't care. Um, yeah, so I finally got to play two games as white this time around, and it's good to see that this opening that I've been playing as white has been doing how it's doing. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I didn't realize it's been like a month since I played my last event. Time kind of just flew, and then all of a sudden I'm turning 30 soon. Ugh. Ugh. Anyway, let's actually get into the games. So, small backstory. Um, I did not realize that there were going to be transit delays when I was traveling to get to the Marshall Chess Club. So, I got there and I like walked up to the board and I sat down and I looked at my clock and I realized I was already down like 6.5, 7 minutes, which actually isn't even right. I arrived late and was down about 6.5 minutes. Yeah, so I arrived late, which was pretty bad. I just saw my opponent sitting there, like just waiting, looking at other games next to him. But eventually, I get there, sit down, shake his hand, and I'm like, "Sorry, I'm late. Let's go." So we go d4, d5, and I've played this a few times already as white. So I played it last time I was at Marshall, and I think I played it in the event before at Chess Max. So yeah, so d4, d5, knight f3, c6. So he's going for like a semi-Slav or a Slav. G3, bishop f5. So a semi-Slav. Not that matters which one it is, but I continue with my plan. Bishop g2, e6, and then c4. So against setups that involve this semi-Slav setup with the bishop on f5, or in setups with bishop g4, you want to play for queen b3 and poke at this weakness on b7. Because the bishop is no longer on this square able to defend the pawn, this is a great time for you to try to attack it. And there's a line, so let's just say random move for black. There's queen b3, queen b6, c4, take, and then maybe something like knight f6, knight c3, bishop b7, and then you play this endgame where you push the b pawn twice and you play b5 twice. But instead of that, he played d takes c4. Now here, I thought for like a little bit. Mostly, I'm still like trying to catch my breath because I was trying to get there as fast as I could. So I was a little winded still, but I just played knight d2. Maybe a better move here would have been knight e5, just to attack the pawn like this. And now you can't actually go b5 because then I'll take here. So, for example, b5, take. And you kind of have to deal with this. You could probably move your queen somewhere, but then I could just take again. And, I'm not so sure about this position for black. It feels kind of icky. My bishop is kind of controlling half of the board. I'll be able to castle, play like knight c3, a4, I don't know, e3 first maybe, but that's how the game could have gone. But I played knight bd2. He plays b5 to defend the pawn. Logical. I really should have played a4 here, just to contest the pawn here. And this is like a common motif in more mainline Catalan setups. And I should say that I am playing a pseudo Catalan where I delay c4 until a little later. But here, like, black is basically having to give the pawn back. Um, I don't know. I mean, if you take here, I mean, this just looks awful, right? Like, these pawns are just all bad. A4, if you try to protect it, I'm going to take on b5. If you take with the c pawn, I have knight e5, discovering this, and your position gets really uncomfortable. All right, if you try to play rook a7, I have this fork. Oops, this fork. And you're like, oh, but I can take here, but then I'll take here, and now you have to move your king here, and that just doesn't look good at all. Maybe I have an idea of playing b3, bishop a3. And then after a6 takes, c takes, or sorry, not c takes. Oh yeah, you can't take with a pawn because I take your rook. So I really should have played a4 here right away, but I just like didn't remember in the moment. I played knight e5 thinking, haha, me attack pawn. And he plays knight c7. I'm like, oh yeah, right, of course. Yeah, he just defends the pawn, like duh. Like I don't know. I just like didn't think about it. So I played e3 just because I was like, oh shit, my pawn's hanging. I don't want to lose another one. He plays f6, kicking my knight away. So I have to go back to f3. Let me get this arrow out of the way. And then he plays bishop d3. And right when he played this move, I don't know why I didn't see it earlier, but right when he played this move, I was like, okay, I'm just completely worse out of the opening. Like, I have royally screwed this up by not playing a4 sooner. But let's try to salvage this position and hope for the best. You know, like maybe there's some ideas of this pawn being weak or this diagonal being weak. Maybe he won't castle in time because he needs to go 1, 2, 3. This knight has to go here and then doesn't really have any prospects. It's like, all right, I mean, I'll figure it out, hopefully. I started with a4, trying to chip away at the pawns, as kind of like I mentioned earlier, but the difference now is that none of these lines work. Well, not none of them, but you can defend here, and you can just take with the c pawn against here, like knight h4. You just go rook a7, and obviously I can't go knight e5 because he's just gonna take it. So he could have just played a6, but he played b4 instead. Now usually I'd be able to take this pawn, but the bishop is also protecting it, so I can't really do that, and it's kind of a problem. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to undermine this pawn. How do I do it? b3. He plays c3, which, I mean, of course, makes a lot of sense. I just heard something like collapse or something. I don't know. Anyway, c3, knight c4. And I had seen all of this after I played a4. Now, I was thinking here, like, okay, I'll be really happy if he plays takes, because I feel like that actually relieves a lot of problems in my position. But I was like, okay, well, after c3, knight c4, he's going to play bishop g6. And I'm like, okay, well, knight h4, I can chase his bishop there. I'm not totally happy with that position, but, you know, maybe it's something. Although it would be funny if he played this. That would be funny, but no, I don't think he would play that. But to my surprise, he actually did take on c4, which I'm not sure what he wanted or what he liked about bishop takes c4 here. I totally thought bishop g6 was much better just because you control this diagonal. I guess maybe you get kicked out with knight h4 and then your bishop becomes a bad piece, so maybe that's what he didn't like. But at any rate, I just played bc4, and I thought, okay, phase 1 of the problems is over. I got the bishop out of the way. Problem 2 now is these pawns. And furthermore, because it's black's turn, he played a5, so I can't chip away at b4. So now I have these pawns that are just like completely in my throat in this position. And I don't really see a way for me to not stop the pawns, but to remove them. Like, I can stop the pawns, but I can't remove them. So this is going to be a tough game to go forward. I started with castling just because, again, don't forget, I'm like down 7.5 minutes or 6.5 minutes. I think around now I'm only down like 4 minutes maybe. maybe 5, but still I'm down like a lot of time. So I just played this quickly. He played queen b6. I played rook b1. Again, I didn't really know what I should be doing here. I just wanted to make quick moves that don't hurt my position. I think the computer recommended c5 here, and maybe like queen b3 to attack this pawn. I don't remember what the computer said after c5. I did look at it very briefly on my phone, but I played rook b1. He played knight f5, which is a logical move. You need to get out of the way of the bishop first and foremost. But I also looked at it and I'm like, your knight can't go anywhere. Like, you can go here, I guess, but then I can play c5 and fork. So, like, your knight is not actually, it's not a good piece, but it makes sense because you're trying to play bishop e7 castle. So I was like, all right, fine. I went queen b3 with the idea of playing c5, hitting the queen and exposing an attack on the weak pawn here. But he played queen a6 to get out of it, so fair enough. I played e4. So I realized that I had a pretty decent collection of pawns in the center. So I was like, I should probably just start pushing, try to open the center here while black's king is not castled, and just hope for the best afterwards, right? So I was thinking maybe I can try to get in like d5, rook e1, bishop f4, or maybe even bishop g5 if this pawn moves. I'm like, maybe I'll get some chances there, but for now, let me just push the pawns and just keep trying to get tempo on black's position. So here I played e5. I should have considered c5 instead, just because I didn't realize in the game that my pawn was hanging. C5, like what, knight f7, like you can't go anywhere else. Oh, I guess you could take here. Okay, maybe not. But then rook e1 f5, knight e5. I don't know. It's messy. I haven't analyzed any of these games yet. I'm just like yapping into the microphone. So I just played e5 quickly, getting tempo on the knight, and also in a way trying to open the position up because there's some pawn tension here as well. I was totally expecting something like f takes e5, but what he actually played was knight takes c4. This is a free pawn. So I was like, oh yeah, oops. But I still have to try to open his king, right? Because he still needs 2 moves to castle. So I played e takes f6, g takes f6, rook e1. I was trying to pressure this pawn. He plays king f7, defending the pawn. And then I found a move that, I don't know if it's winning, but it brings me back into the game. So if you want to pause here, try to find the move that I played in this position. So the move here I played is bishop f1. Very simply adding an attacker to the c4 knight. It's pinned to the queen. Black doesn't have a way to defend the knight in an additional time. So black needs to find a way to kind of alleviate this pressure. And he did find a very good move, which I didn't see, knight d2, right? Counterattacking these pieces. So obviously I don't want to equal trade, right? Like this. Although I could go here. Then take, check. I mean, I could do this. I'd still be down a pawn though, so it's not totally much better. So I didn't want to do that. But I realized here that this e-pawn is mightily weak. And I'm like, oh, I have free access to take it. So I played queen takes e6, king g7. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I can take the queen now, right? But I looked at it, I'm like, wait a sec. Bishop takes a6, knight takes f3, fork, king f1 here, there. And I'm like, this doesn't look winning. So I had to think, okay, so I can't just take the queen right away. Right, so queen e6, king g7. I can't really take the queen right away, right, because of this check. So how can I stop this check? Well, I can't stop the check, or the capture with check, but I can take the sting out of it, as Naroditsky would like to say. So here's another pause the moment video, or pause the moment video? Pause the video moment, and see if you can find my next move here, which is, I wouldn't say like a super cool move, but I was proud of it. So the move I played was queen g4 check. And the idea is that it's check, you have to move, obviously, and it protects the knight. So now you don't have knight takes f3. So after my opponent played king f7, I took his queen. He takes here with check, I take back, and then he takes my rook. So all in all, he has a knight and a pawn for my queen. And I immediately was like, okay, I'm definitely in the driver's seat now. Black's position, it's kind of bad, right? You do still have these pawns, which can be quite dangerous if you can activate them. But your king is very weak. These pieces haven't moved at all this game, or this one. So I was like, okay, I surely can mount something, right? I started with bishop f4, just poking the knight. Knight d7. And then here I saw a sequence of two moves that I thought was going to basically lead into a mate eventually. Just like by intuition. Like it just feels like you have to be getting mated here somehow. So it started with queen h5, king g8, and then rook e8. Rook e8 pins this bishop to the king. I was thinking of playing something like bishop d6 or maybe bishop h6 is slightly better, just to prevent him from going king g7. Obviously, this knight still protects it, so I got to figure out a way to deal with that. But oh, those are fireworks. But I also have something like queen h6 as well if I really needed it. But yeah, so like black's king is just totally stuck. It's like slowly getting squeezed in. My opponent plays c2. I respond with rook b e1. Obviously, I'm not letting him take my my rook. Conveniently, my bishop is stopping the promotion on c1. So black doesn't really have the counterplay that he needs to, you know, like stop this mating attack. He continues with b3, right? Obviously, he can just try to go b2, b1 queen. But I did some just like double checking, doing some calculation real quick, and I had to make sure that my next move totally works, and then I did. Which was rook 1 e7. Right? The idea is that I'm threatening mate with queen f7. You can't promote because I take. You can't push here because it's mate. Right? So I was like going through all the moves. There's no rook moves, no pawn moves. Right? That again, you have to stop queen f7. Bishop move, you can't move your bishop. Knight moves. Well, actually, you have knight e5. Rook doesn't do anything. These pawns cannot do anything, right? Because I said c1 queen, I just take. So I was like, okay, the only two moves you can realistically play here are c1 check, with which I would take, and the move he did play in the game, which was knight e5, defending f7. I just need to not take with the bishop, right? Because then he promotes, and all of a sudden it's like, am I really winning anymore? But I probably still am. Like, look at his king. There's no way that's not winning. But I was like, why? Don't be stupid. Take with the pawn, and black's getting mated. So I played b2, and then I played queen f7 mate. So overall, I definitely misplayed the opening. It was real bad. I was down 6.5, 7 minutes. This knight d2 move is, I think knight d2 is fine. I just needed to play a4 like right away. Like this knight e5, knight e7 is just not. No, and then e3 as well. Like that I should not have played e3. A little. No, I should not have played knight e5. I needed to play a4 here. I just like couldn't remember because I was like still winded slightly from trying to rush to the location. But yeah, overall, like I played this middle game. I felt like the strategic portion of it was played well. I just executed it poorly because I dropped another pawn. But I did find the tactic here. Well, I wouldn't call it a tactic. It's just an attack. I did find these nice moves. This queen g4 to stop the counterplay. I'm surprised they didn't take here, but whatever. Yeah, so overall a decent game, but I definitely messed up that opening, so I need to be a little wary about that. Okay, going into game number 2. I don't know if I mentioned it in the first game, but my opponent in the first round was rated 1727. Here I'm playing against Kyle Clayton. He is rated 1807. I have the black pieces, and I was actually kind of hoping for d4 just so I can get some games in of playing against d4 is black, but he plays e4, so okay, well, you know the drill, Caro-Kann. He goes for an advanced, so I played bishop f5, and then he played knight c3. And I didn't understand what the point of knight c3 was here. I don't think I've seen this in my games, like online and in person. Definitely not in person. Like OTB or like casual. But I definitely don't think I've seen this, or if I did, I just don't remember it. And I couldn't figure out what the point was like of playing knight c3. Typically in these advanced structures with bishop f5, if you're not playing like a tall or a bayonet, or well, yeah, if you're not playing a tall or a bayonet, like you want this pawn on c3 so that you can protect it when I eventually play c5. So when you play knight c3, you're blocking your c pawn, so this pawn becomes a target later in the game, right? So I'm like, okay, so what's the point? I don't see what you're really trying to do here. So I just played e6 as per usual Caro-Kann stuff, and then he played g4. So I was like, oh, so this is your idea? But like, why did you need to include knight c3? And I think what he wanted was to eliminate the possibility of bishop e4. Now, in a normal bayonet without knight c3, you can go here, provoke f3, and then go back. And there's like a line here with like h4, h6, e6. You can take here, and I'll show you this crazy line just because it's fucking hilarious. Sorry. e6 there. Okay, no, sorry. It's this first. And then you go queen d6, knight here, king d8, sorry, you don't go king d8 on its own. You go knight d7, and then if check here, and if bishop f4, you go e5. And if they take, well, you lose your queen, so you can't take, so something like take, and then something like take, king c7, bishop d6, knight c6, you're up a pawn. Like, there's some crazy, stupid-ass line in the bayonet like this. But we don't get that. That's a random aside. So anyway, I think the reason he played knight c3 was he wanted against bishop e4 to take here and then play something like queen e2 and just win the pawn. Now, I saw that, so I didn't play bishop e4, and I just played bishop g6. Very normal stuff. And I thought, okay, well, you get a normal bayonet, but this knight doesn't belong on c3, right? It should be on, like, d2, I think. Definitely shouldn't be here. Does not belong on c3. But he played knight ge2. I was like, okay, I got to remember to play c5 because I'm playing a Caro-Kann, and I did. He played knight f4, which, again, I didn't quite understand the purpose, right? I mean, obviously he's trying to trade off my bishop, but I didn't think this was the way to do it. I figured you would want to play, which I know this is a slow plan, but let's just say knight c6, h4. Right, I need to play h6, h5, or sorry, not h5. You just take. Right, I figured he would want to do something like this, weaken my pawns. I need to like run here somehow and go from there. But he just takes it. Right, so after I played knight c6 after his knight f4, he just took it. I'm like, really? I'm fine with that. H takes, and now I have an open rook. Right, so now his h2 pawn is going to be under pressure. I thought, okay, fine by me. He goes bishop e3, I go queen b6, poking at b2, also defending against this pressure here. He goes bishop b5. It's protected by the knight, so I can't take. I mean, I could take, but that would be bad. So from here, I didn't really know how I wanted to continue. I don't want to play knight e7 because he takes and hits my queen. Bishop e7, he can take again and make me waste a tempo. So I just took on d4. I was totally expecting bishop takes, something like queen c7. And I mean, I don't know, life kind of just goes on here. But after cd4, he played queen d4. Obviously, I can't take because queen. I can't take here because it's pinned. So I'm like, okay, do I want to trade queens here? I didn't see a better spot for my queen to play this game. I guess I could have gone queen c7 to pressure this pawn, but he could just go bishop f4 or just pawn f4. So it's like, all right, fine, I'll just trade. Right? I have more inactive pieces, so I'd be more willing to trade off his active ones so that there's a little less pressure on my position. But anyway, after the trade, I played bishop b4, pinning the knight to his king. A3, bishop a5, maintaining the pin. Long castle, and then I played knight e7. Against b4, I would have just went bishop c7. He probably would have went f4, but you know, knight e7, and I mean, okay, like my pieces are kind of stuck behind a lot of things, but there's no weaknesses in my position. So I was like, okay, this is fine. I'll probably play for like f6, take, and maybe not right away, but once I can figure out how to liberate my king, I can play for f6. So knight e7, f4, defending the pawn on e5. I finally played a6. I was talking to someone at Brooklyn Game Night, and they were also asking like, "Oh, why didn't you just play h6 or a6 earlier?" And the real reason is that, like, I saw the move, but I didn't totally want to play bc. Like, it's not bad, but I wasn't totally convinced that this move was necessary. Right? I mean, I still need to develop the bishop and the knight in the position where he asked me, like somewhere around here. Like, why didn't I just play h3? I mean, I still need to develop these. So I was like, okay, I was thinking about like knight h6, maybe bishop b4, knight e7. I can develop this rook first instead. I can castle. Like, there's much more to the position that I really should be doing rather than just playing a6 to kick the bishop. It also kind of weakens the queen side if I do want a long castle, so that's another reason why I didn't really want to play h6, or a6, sorry. To my surprise, he voluntarily traded on c6, which I didn't quite understand what he was getting out of. I mean, like, he could go here maybe, but I guess maybe his thinking was that this is a relatively close position, so he's okay with trading off a bishop for a knight. The bishops don't quite have a scope. You know, if you were to put your light squared bishop anywhere on the board, where would you want it? I mean, it's not really a good square. Like, these squares are nice to use, but they're just staring into pawns that are protected, right? It's like here, if you put your bishop here, it's staring into this pawn. I mean, here is not really staring into anything useful, so maybe that's why he didn't want to keep his bishop. But yeah, I was like, okay, knight takes. He played b4. I decided to take on d4. So what I calculated was, if I play here, I mean, my bishop is kind of stuck behind pawns. Right? If I go here, I mean, I'm not really doing anything on this square, right? Like, what am I really doing here? Not much. So after b4, I'm like, okay, if I save my bishop, it's not really going to do anything. So I might as well just take. And furthermore, you don't really want to take on a5 because I'll just come back to c6 and you're not guarding this pawn. All right, and then I can also come here. So this just looks like a totally worse position for white if you take here. So after I played knight takes d4, he takes back with the rook. I played bishop b6, just attacking the rook one more time, just for fun. He plays rook d3. I continue rook c8, just skip forward 2 moves. Putting pressure on the knight. Obviously, his rook's protecting it, but, in the future, if he needs to, like, go here or here or whatever, then he has to worry about the knight first. He plays h3. I go king e7. No need to castle, right? Keep the rook on the open file. Connect the rooks. King in the center towards, in this endgame is probably better than castling it. So, okay. My position is fine. Do I have any advantages? Not really. This doubled pawn is a little rough, but I'll figure it out. And then as I say that, he played f5 and figures it out for me. I'm like, I was looking at it, I'm like, this move does not look right. I mean, it's not a mistake tactically or like materially, but strategically, it's like, why are you letting me get rid of my doubled pawn? So I just took without much thought. He takes back. I'm like, fine. Okay, like, what's the big deal? I continue with bishop c7, just putting pressure on this pawn. He plays f takes e6. I take back, f takes. I actually considered playing bishop takes right here, which looks okay, but I guess he has king d7. I would win a pawn, though. Yeah, so maybe I should have taken here instead. I just took back instantly. I was also trying to put a little bit of clock pressure on him. I noticed he was moving very slowly. I think at this point in the game, he probably had like 3 minutes left, and I had like 12 or something. Like, I had a lot of time left because, I mean, I've played Caro-Kann position so much. Like, that just goes. But anyway, he plays rook e1. So maybe putting the bishop on h4 would have been nice. Oh well. I continue with rook h5, adding pressure to this pawn. And then he goes rook f3. And I'm like, this is a free pawn. I mean, if it's for me, if it's free, it's for me. So I took it. And it also just adds pressure to this knight here. He played knight a4, getting out of the way. I played bishop d4, just to prevent him from going here or here. c3, trying to kick it away, but I played bishop a7, maintaining control of these squares. And then he plays rook ef1. So I'm like, okay, so this was the whole point. Even though I'm up a pawn, you're doubling your rooks to try to infiltrate down the f-file. And I looked at it and I'm like, I cannot allow him to go like rook f7, because this would just like obliterate my position. He can take here, and my bishop is gonna be hanging. If I go here, I mean, he can take here and then come with the other rook to f7. I'm like, okay, I cannot allow that. I have to give the pawn back. Rook f5. So takes. And then I played b5 to kick his knight out. I totally thought he was going to go knight b2. But then he played knight c5 instead. And I'm like, okay, I'll win another pawn. So I thought I had a small advantage. I'm up a pawn, but it is a rook endgame, so it's going to be hard to prove that the pawn is winning. But I mean, I'm up a pawn, so let's play for a win, right? He goes king d2, I go king e6, poking at the rook here. He goes rook g5, I go king f6 to poke the rook again, and then he plays h4. So I stopped annotating here because my opponent was down under a minute on the clock. So the following moves are not exactly what is going to be shown on the screen. Just keep that in mind as I go forward. But basically what happened was I tried to trade pawns and get into like some kind of pawn endgame where I would have this pawn as a passer. But somewhere in the process, I ended up losing the pawn because, yeah, he got some kind of rook g3 or like rook g4, and I couldn't defend it because my rook was like way over here for some reason. I think I was trying to hit this pawn. But I took his h pawn just so that he doesn't have a passed one, and then he takes here. And I did win the a pawn, but then he ended up also winning the a pawn at some point later. Again, I don't remember the exact moves, so obviously the rooks are seeing each other, but that's not what happened in the game. And we got to something like this. So I actually played rook a4 into his rook here, and then he ended up taking, and then he started shuffling his king over. We shuffled the king over. This position is correct, except that it's supposed to be black to move and not white. Because in this position, in the actual game, I played a3 check, and then he played king takes, and I took it as a draw. So, but whatever, same thing. This was the final position. Game is a draw. So pretty good. I held a draw against an 1800. Not the strongest opponent that I've held a draw against, right? Because I had that one draw against the one guy in a Dutch. He was rated 1854. But I mean, it was really hard this game to prove any advantage. Like around here is when I was like, maybe I have something, but all of these pawn advantages just never came to fruition because I had to give it back. Like even here, I had a pawn up again, but it's just not, it wasn't enough, or I might have misplayed it. So a little unfortunate, but you know, I'm okay with the draw against such a higher rated opponent. So I was like, okay, fine, life goes on. We move on to the third game. I have the white pieces yet again, and this time I am playing Travis Henry Reed. I know this is coming off the screen. So I'm playing Travis. He was rated 1575. So there's this funny trend of me playing like one rating, and then I play my second opponent who's like 100 points higher. And then my third opponent is like someone that's like below 1500, but probably underrated. So I don't know what the hell this is about, but such is life. So against Travis, I have the white pieces again, so I'm going to start with d4. He goes knight f6. So I'm going to go into my pseudo Catalan setup, where I play the same Catalan moves and just like noting what he's doing. And then later playing c4, except here he's playing into a Grunfeld, right? So I was going to play c4 here after I castled, but he takes here. And all I remembered in this position was when he plays cd4, don't take unless he has a knight on c6, right? Because this pawn is not going to really do anything. If he pushes it forward, I'll take with probably the c pawn. I could even take with the e pawn if I wanted to. But yeah, I was like, okay, so just you can delay taking until black has a knight on c6. And the idea is that after I take on d4, black does get e5, but I take here and takes back. So now we're in a Grunfeld. Right, so this position, well, okay, so it's known as Grunfeld, and the characteristics are fianchetto against these two pawns here. Nice central control. But white here is going to try to chip away at these pawns with his own piece play and pawn pushes. I should mention the Grunfeld is a black opening. So I should be saying this is the reverse Grunfeld, where white is the one fighting against the central pawns. In the normal Grunfeld, black is the one fighting against white's center pawns that are similarly placed on c3, d4, and e4. So I have seen this before, and I have studied my reference book on these chapters, so I have a general idea on what I should be doing. Maybe I don't know the theory exactly, but I know the general plans, and usually that's enough to kind of like fill in the gaps or figure it out over the board, because I know I need to be doing these kinds of things, so I'll figure out the moves. Anyway, I need to chip away at this pawn center, and how do I do that? c4, right? Poking at this, obviously you don't want to take, because I can go check, maybe something like bishop e7, and then I take. If you take, I'm up in exchange. But he played bishop e7. I probably could have taken here, but I didn't feel like it was totally necessary. Because if I take here, and I go knight c6, he has d5. I'm not sure I really want this transformation. Or even just castle. I'm not sure if I really want to play it like this, but I knew I wanted to play knight c3, so yeah, knight c3, again, adding pressure here. He goes bishop e6 to defend. I play bishop g5. The idea of this move is to remove the knight that is adding defense to d5. He goes e4, so now this bishop is no longer poking at the d-pawn. I continue with what I was going to go with, bishop g5, or sorry, bishop takes f6, bishop takes. I play cd, cd, and then I go queen a4. I totally hallucinated thinking I can come here and take, but if he played bishop d7, I at least have something like queen b3, maybe queen c2, because rook b1, or sorry, rook b8 is coming. So maybe I should have just played queen c2 right away. But I have rooks coming here and here. I can drop my queen back if I really need to, or I can add it to the support of, or to the attack of the d-pawn here. So I played queen a4. He plays queen d7, maintaining defense of this pawn. So I ended up trading, and I was expecting him to take here, to be honest, but that blunders a pawn. So he took with the king just to maintain defense of this. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. I continue with rook fd1, adding pressure to that pawn. He removes my knight, which is pretty smart. I didn't really catch that before it happened, but I played b takes. He plays king e7, stepping out of the way of the rook. Or I mean the rook. Because I do have bishop takes e4 here, and this pawn is pinned. So king e7, c4 again, trying to chip away at the pawns. But this time he plays d takes, which, I mean, I was kind of expecting, but it's kind of whatever, because I can just play bishop takes, rook a c8, rook a c1, rook c7. I thought he was going to double here, so I played rook c3 to also double, but more importantly, prevent the pawn from moving. He played f5. I played bishop g2 to retreat. Not really any other square. I guess like maybe f3, but the f3 is a little more exposed, and also it blocks the well, it doesn't block the e pawn, but I wanted to play e. I could have played it anyway. And then he goes rook d8. I didn't think I had anything better than to trade here. If I move here, he gets to infiltrate, which, you know, is also a fork, so that's no good. So I'm kind of obliged to take. And then after king d8, I'm like, okay, so what's going on in this position? All right, let's take a strategic mapping of this position. It is 5 pawns versus 5 pawns. Bishop, bishop, rook, rook. I have a 4 on 3, but black has the passed pawn on c4. And of course, I guess we have these, but whatever. So black's idea in this position, he's going to try to push the pawn. White's idea in this position, create a passed pawn with the pawn majority, this 4 on 3 here. So I'm like, okay, so that's what I should be playing for. Obviously, it's not so simple. It's going to take some time, but we'll figure it out. I continue with e4. the name of the game here is chip away at pawns with pawns, as you can see here. So he ended up taking f takes. I took back with the bishop. He plays g6 to block this. I played f4. He goes rook d7. I don't want to let him go to d2, so I have to play rook c2. He goes rook d4 to attack my bishop. I go back. And he goes rook d3. Didn't quite know what he wanted after rook d3 here. Maybe to go rook a3 or something. But, I mean, this pawn's defended. So, yeah, not too sure. But I played bishop f1. Now, I totally thought he had to play rook d4 here. I was thinking rook d4, king f2. I don't know, like king c7 and then here. I totally thought this was going to be the way to go, or like what black was going to do, but he played rook d1, pinning my bishop to my king. So it's like, okay, well, I got to get out of there. So I played king f2. He goes rook a1, and I'm like, okay. And here I did calculate a mildly long line here and kind of evaluate, is this even better for me? And I only calculated, well, I calculated a few things, and I'll explain here. So I calculated bishop takes c4, right, winning the pawn, takes, rook takes a2. Now I can go king g2, king g1, but now my rook is cut off, or my king is cut off from participating in the game, and I'm not really going to be able to bring it back. Like the fastest way to do it would be without blundering the pawn, probably something like 1, 2, 3, 4, which I'm not wasting 4 tempo, right? Like that's just not a good idea. So I was like, okay, I can also go to king f3, and I thought, okay, so if I go king f3, he can take my h2 pawn, but I can go rook a4, right? And he can't defend this pawn, so I thought, okay, that sounds pretty good. But then he can go something like king d7, take here. I cannot take on h7. But I thought, okay, this position looks about a draw. So I was like, okay, I would be okay with going into this. But after king f2, rook a1, I also considered h3, right, preparing this avalanche of pawns, but then I saw, that's a lie, so I'll show you what I mean after, but I also saw c3 by black. Now there's 2 attackers on this, or sorry, no, okay, I remember. I was also considering bishop e2, right, because of the previous line where black is able to swing over here and potentially capture my pawn. I was like, okay, maybe if I play bishop e2, I'll be able to block it so that I can, well, basically it's that if he ever takes here, geez, I don't even remember my train of thought. Oh yeah, so bishop e2, and I was like, okay, he wants to win this pawn. He's going to play c3, right, to attack. Now, if I take on c3, he can take here, but this is no longer a check, and the bishop is also blocking the attack on the h2 pawn. So this is also what I calculated. But when I was looking at it, I didn't feel like this was totally the best way to go, right? Because I'm pinned, and I have to stay on dark squares, and like I'd have to go with G4 to start pushing my pawns, but then black can also go here. I didn't calculate this far, but I didn't quite like it as much as taking on c4 with the bishop. yeah, so I did end up playing bishop takes c4, bishop takes, rook a2, king f3, and I was expecting rook takes h2, but he played a5 instead. And I'm like, oh, that move makes a lot of sense, right? Black is going to be so much faster to push this pawn than I am to like play like h3, g4, f5, takes, you know, and then I have to like march my king up, and I'm gonna push the pawn up, and it's gonna take like a million years to get there. So I was thinking like this is gonna be a little rough, but at the same time, right? If you think about rook endgames against passed pawns, as long as you don't get checked while the rook remains on the back rank, black or your opponent cannot really do anything, right? And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. I continue with h4. He played king d7, king g4, trying to get these pawns going. He plays a4. I played f5. I also considered h5, but I figured putting the king on the edge of the board might get a little problematic. Maybe not, but then he goes here, and it's like, I don't know. Right? He's also threatening mate now, so I have to go like here and go here, and like I didn't like my king being on the edge of the board, so I went with f5, g takes, king takes, which I thought was fine. He played rook f2, king g5, a3. I need to get behind this pawn to stop it, so I played rook a4. He goes a2. So this is what I was talking about before, right? Like, as long as you don't get checked on the back rank, you're probably going to be fine, and black, in this case, wouldn't be able to promote. So if we imagine a position where, let's just say, I need to move this guy here. Wait, never mind. What am I saying? I played king h6. Ignore what I said. But yeah, oh, okay, I guess he can't really go to the back rank with a check. But basically what I'm trying to say is, like, the rook and the pawn can't coordinate each other to promote. If the rook leaves, I take, and if the pawn pushes, I take. So this position, it's like, yeah, his pawn is almost going to promote, but I don't think he can actually do it without bringing his king over. And that's exactly what he did. He brought his king over. He played king c6. I went g4, just trying to go with my plan. King b5. And then I played rook a8. And I wonder if this was the move that really sealed the deal, or if it was this king h6 move. Now, pause the video again and see if you can find the winning move for black. Well, I think this is winning. I don't actually know. But the move is rook f6 check. So the problem is, which I didn't even notice in the game, I was just going to go, I just went here to attack the rook. Then he went here. And then I realized all of the problems in the position. I was like, oh shit, that's not good. He's going to promote. Well, I tried to see if there was a way for me to be able to win the pawn and play against the rook rather than play against the queen, but there was nothing in the position to do that, because if I try to give a check, well, first of all, he can block, but he can just go king a5, and I cannot stop this pawn. So I was thinking, can I go around? No, you're way too slow. So I was like, okay, well, I just have to sack here, and then take this, and then he promotes. Now, I didn't realize that he had rook a6 incoming. If I did, I probably would have taken this right away, and then, like, maybe there's a difference here where I can try to salvage this game. But yeah, no, I didn't see rook a6, so I didn't think to take the pawn right away. I just wanted to get tempo on his rook. So we get to this position where he promotes against my 2 pawns. I go g5, but then he goes queen h1, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm losing a pawn so early. I mean, admittedly, at this point, like, there's no way I'm really... I guess I could try to save one of my pawns by, like, walking like this, but I just moved instantly. We're both under 3 minutes. Maybe even under 2 minutes at this point. Maybe 3, I don't know. But yeah, I blundered a pawn right away. So I played g6 just to get the pawn as far forward as possible. Went king g7. I should have maybe went king g8 just so that I can push the pawn one more square a little faster. But I went king g7, king g7, king b7, king g8, rook, queen d8 check. I should note, at this point is when I stopped annotating or writing down the moves because we're both under like 3 minutes, 2.5 maybe. So I was like, okay, I just need to go. Like, I need to figure this out and try to promote. I did make progress. I got my pawn to g7, but eventually what happened was he played the endgame correctly, where queen against pawn, you need to bother the king. You need to, in this case, black needs to bother white's king so that it gets in front of the pawn, so the pawn can't promote. And while that's happening, so I'll show you from here. Right. So every move where white cannot promote is a move that black needs to bring the king forward 1 square. Right. And the king was like way back here, so this is a good example. Right. So here I'm trying to promote, but then he pins my pawn again. So I need to move my king out of the way, but check. Here now I cannot right, I cannot push my pawn to promote it. So now is the time that black brings his king over 1 square. I try to escape, but then again, like, I don't have anywhere to go really. I can go here. But then here, I guess black can go here. I can't promote, so I need to go king h7. But then you start going here, and yeah, you just have to keep bothering the king, slowly cut off the squares, where eventually he has to go here. You bring the king forward, and you repeat this process until you can either win the pawn or mate black, or mate white. So again, these aren't the exact moves in the game, but we eventually got to this position where I was forced to move out, and then he just mated me. So yeah, I did offer a draw somewhere in here because I thought I could hold it, but no, I didn't. So unfortunately, I do lose against Travis. It was a good game. Overall, it was just like very even, playing the Grunfeld as, typical strategic motifs go, but yeah, just this end game, like somewhere in this end game, I haven't run the computer analysis, is I messed up. I'm wondering if it was, I don't know if it was king h6 that was the problem, or if it was something like, so I guess king h6 right away wasn't the problem. I think it was rook a8 that was the problem. Right, so maybe I should have gone here like this and prevent this like wraparound idea. Then he would go here, and this would be a draw. But I didn't see it, so tough luck for me. But yeah, overall, pretty good event. Getting a win against a 1700, a draw against an 1800. Yeah, I keep losing to these people that are like between 14 and 1600. I'm pretty sure they were just both underrated. My last event where I lost to the 1460, I'm pretty sure he was also underrated. I'm underrated too, and I'm only 1300, or I was only 1300. So I can't really complain too much. I will edit and put in the rating update here. There. Somewhere. But the new rating is, what was it again? I actually texted it So 1429. So I went from 1358 to 1429. That's about 70 points, 71 points. Yes. Yes, 71. So I went up 71 points with a win and a draw and a loss. If I won this game, I'd probably be like high 1400, but whatever. So I just really need one more event similar to this, and I'll hit my baseline target of 1500. I don't know if I mentioned this at any point, but my goal for this chess stuff, get to, like, by the end of my membership, my US membership, I wanted to hit 1500. It's June, and I'm 70 points away, and I'm playing very well against 1800s. So what Anthony Kozakowski, he was like a 1900 I played at Chessmax. What he said was so very true, where he's like, by the way I talk about chess and what he's gathering from me talking about chess and how I'm approaching it, he's like, dude, you're going to hit 1500 in no time. Like, literally in no time. And he was right. Like, I played 2 events and I've gained 140-ish and then 75. So yeah, I've gained 200 some odd points in 2 tournaments. And it's not because I grinded, it's because I was already of that skill level, you know? Like, having played so many years of chess before even playing USCF tournaments, like, I've already reached that skill level. I just don't have the games to get my rating there, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know why I didn't think I would get there at all. I think it was mainly because I was playing at Chessmax, and you know, the people there are like 1200, 1300 tops. So like, beating those people, I mean, I would eventually have to be at where I am now, where I'm playing at Marshall and beating up on these people. So, you know, I kind of wish I just went to Marshall right away, just because I knew I should have known and been confident in myself that I could play at a 1500 level USCF. So yeah, I mean, my baseline target is 1500. I'm gonna try to go for 1700. I'm gonna try to go for 1700 USCF as well. I think I can do it. It's just gonna take a while longer, and I mean, I'm 6 months ahead of schedule almost, so you know, I have the time to do it. I think 2000 is not, I'm not going to be able to do it alone. Like, I will need to start getting coaches or something. Like, I need some additional assistance to kind of push me over the edge to 2000 if I want to get there. I think if I do somehow hit 2000, I would be like more than just like like, I'd be so happy. I'd be fulfilled. Just wow, I didn't think I would be 2000, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get to 1500 first, and then we'll see what happens. So thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked the video, and yeah, I'll see you next time.